So this came out today. It was in the headlines. I'm just going to read part of it. So it says, Healthcare watchdog crafts Bill of Rights for youths escaping transgenderism. The Detransitioner Bill of Rights represents a crucial step in protecting the rights and well-being of children who have been subjected to experimental sex change treatments, said Dr. Stanley Goldfarb, Do No Harm chairman. Medical professionals should publicly acknowledge the plight of detransitioners and research ways to help and support those who regret undergoing these procedures. The model legislation has been made available to all, including state and federal policymakers and advocates, for 6 fundamental rights of detransitioners, including 1. Right to informed consent. 2. Right to effective care. 3. Right to public transparency. 4. Right to insurance coverage. This is all for detransitioning. 5. Right to legal restoration. 6. Right to justice. The model legislation has been heralded by high-profile detransitioners like Chloe Cole. You can look her up if you don't know who she is. She's been very vocal about this, what happened to her, who said she helped, and she's not the only one, who said she helped inform the content on the bill based on her own experience. Quote, I was abused and lied to by medical professionals. I was told to trust them. They lied to my parents too. They're still abusing and lying to countless young boys and girls. Our bill ensures that every medical professional who helps a minor transition can be held personally liable for the damage they do. I know many people who waited a lot longer than I did to detransition. Our bill lets them sue their doctors for up to 25 years after they turn 18. The transgender craze is sweeping the country. It's only a matter of time before the wave of detransitioners swells, too. Every state should pass this Detransitioners Bill of Rights to ensure that people like me get honesty, care, and justice. Yes, because that is what will happen. Again, the frontal lobe isn't formed, so impulse control, again, I'm going to keep saying it, because the reason it's the frontal lobe is, and the reason teenagers make irrational decisions and have impulse control issues is because the frontal lobe isn't formed. So many of these people and many of these children will get older and feel the same way Chloe did. It just baffles me why the science decided to forget the frontal lobe. Breaking down the bill. In the United States, the top-down push for minors to obtain sex-mutilating drugs and surgeries under the misleading moniker gender-affirming care, yes, very misleading, and because of, basically your lobbyists that were all for this are your pharma, your Vanguard, your BlackRock. I'm sure American Nurses Association knows that. Under the misleading moniker gender-affirming care is clear, promulgated by President Joe Biden's White House, academia, large hospitals, and major medical organizations. At the root of these actors, along with the proliferation of gender ideology on social media, ultimately promote the false idea that human beings can be a different sex than what they were born as. Even further, the gender ideology complex claims these individuals should take sex change drugs and get sex change procedures to align their outward appearance with how they feel on the inside. This goes so against psych, too. It's like, just fix the outside and then you don't need to worry. I mean, that's so against everything you're taught as a psych professional. Some of these so-called treatments include double mastectomies, female and male genitalia mutilation and removal, facial feminization and masculization, hormone treatments and puberty blockers that can cause chemical sterilization. While the push towards transgenderism is heavily ideological, a report released in December 2020 found that the U.S. sex reassignment surgery market size was valued at $267 million in 2019. Bingo. That's what it's all about. And then that's what will destroy science in the medical profession. And not just this, but because, just go watch Glenn Beck's special he did earlier tonight on The Blaze or on his YouTube channel about the history of medicine. And is expected to expand at a compound annual growth rate of 14.4% from 2020 to 2027. Do No Harm concluded its legislative findings that the United States is barreling forward with sexually mutilating sex-confused children, even while health authorities in Sweden, Finland, and the UK are backtracking. Those countries now recommend psychotherapy as a first and ideally only line of treatment for youth with gender dysphoria. Despite the course reversal underway in Europe, some in the American medical community are aggressively pushing for interventions on minors that medically alter the minor's hormonal balance and remove healthy external and internal sex organs. Yes, like the American Medical Association and the American Nurses Association. Again, they will be, them with their lobbyists will be what destroys the healthcare system. And then they think they're going to come in and fix it. Yeah, think again. Organizations that advocate for such interventions, including the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, do so for ideological rather than scientific or medical reasons and actively stifle dissent in the medical community. Yes, people like me and many doctors and others have been being suppressed. That's one of the biggest problems. That's what Marxists do. That's why the people heading up American Medical Association and Nursing Association, along with everything else, they're Marxists. Do No Harm argues that as institutions in the United States continue to push for minors to have access to sex change drugs and procedures, there has been a rising number of detransitioners, some of whom indicate that they were pressured to medically transition in the first place. At the same time, the organization found that there is very little established support for those seeking exit detransitioning. Many of these individuals regret the decision to transition and regret the physical harm the interventions caused. Many individuals do not detransition or express regret until adulthood, right? Because the frontal lobe is then formed. And that's why they say, why did people let me do this? The total percentage of people who experience this regret is unknown. The text states, adding that detransitioners were subjected to an experimental course of treatment to alter their bodies and were not necessarily exposed to the risks of sex-changing drugs and procedures. No reliable studies have shown that these treatments reduce the risk of suicide in children or adolescents with gender dysphoria. Do you hear that, psych professionals? Yeah, no studies. Even the FDA has not approved the use of puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones for the purpose of treating gender dysphoria. The legislation states that any healthcare professional or doctor who perform a sex change procedure on a minor would be strictly and personally liable for all costs associated with subsequent detransition procedures sought by that minor within 25 years after the commencement of a gender transition procedure. I will follow this up with something else. However, I would guess this will be shadow banned or removed because that's what we're living under now. People that remove truth.